The vanilla World of Warcraft has perhaps the most secrets and interesting facts out of any version of WoW we've ever got. During the development of the game, so many ideas were considered. Some of them ended up getting into the game fully, some were cast aside, and others ended up being relics which can be found within the game but never really went anywhere. After all, vanilla was just a bunch of guys putting stuff in the game which they thought sounded cool, and to that end, I think they did a pretty good job. It was a totally different approach to the game compared to nowadays, and it certainly shows. So today I'm going to be talking about some more random and potentially useless bits of vanilla information that you may or may not have known about. These facts will be from all corners of the game too, ranging from the alpha to things which did end up getting in the finished game. So with that said, let's make a start. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus. Tacticus is a fast-paced turn-based strategy game where players command a huge array of champions in tactical skirmishes set in the huge Warhammer 40,000 universe. The game boasts a wide range of content, including an expansive PvE campaign, competitive PvP battles, guild raids, and special events, ensuring that there are challenges and rewards for both new and veteran players alike. And with a massive roster featuring over 70 champions from 17 playable factions, Tacticus offers endless possibilities for strategy, and it will really allow you to adapt your preferred playstyle into the game. Players can also engage in both competitive and cooperative modes too, and with constant updates being added into the game as well as a 4.5 App Store rating, Tacticus has really hit the mark when it comes to strategy-based gaming. Tacticus is always expanding over time as well, with a spring event upcoming soon and its 3rd anniversary in 2025. You can check all this out and more in Tacticus today by scanning the QR code on screen or by clicking the link down in the description. Also, don't forget to use my code for extra in-game rewards. Many thanks to Tacticus for the sponsor today. Let's get on back to WoW. We all know Classic for the length of the leveling journey, and a big part of that has always been working on your professions. But did you know at one point there were way more planned secondary professions that the player will be able to pick up as part of that journey? We had foraging, which sounds quite similar to what herbalism would have been. We had tracking, you have to imagine this would be hunting animals. We had brewing, you already know dwarves would have had some kind of racial bonus here. Imagine going back to the inn to check on the progress of your brew. Or maybe it was even linked to player housing, which was also tested during very early development. And there was also cartography, a profession to draw out your own map of the world. Imagine instead of discovering somewhere on your map and it just appears, you had to go back to an inn or take out some paper and write that down. You could also chart things such as caves, mines, hidden locations, and so much more. You might think this all sounds a lot more survival game-esque than it being perhaps an mmorpg, and it kind of does, to be honest, because there was also a skill which was literally called survival skills. This was designed to be complementary to existing skills such as cooking or fishing, and it allowed you to, for one, create fires. Here's a post from 2004 which says, "You may also want to train survival skills, which will allow your character to create campfires. Campfires are used to cook, and being able to create a campfire will allow you to almost always cook anywhere." Whereas in the game, of course, nowadays you can just buy materials from a vendor for fires instead of it being its whole own profession. You could also light torches to provide a minor spirit buff to party members, as well as a small light aura around you at night. I reckon during development, Blizzard thought there wasn't enough to some of these professions for them to really make the cut. I guess nobody told them about half the skills in RuneScape, so they were either added into the game in other ways, such as their campfires, or ultimately removed. A lot of cool ideas here though, especially the torches lighting up areas at night. The epic mounts that we have in vanilla since its re-release in 2019 were not the original epic mounts which existed in the game. From vanilla's release in November 2004 until about April 2005, epic mounts looked different. The reason was that Blizzard just hadn't finished the models of epic mounts yet, and so they didn't have armor. And in patch 1.4, the option was added to trade in your old no armor epic mount for one of the newer ones which were familiar with. A decision which meant in retrospect you traded in an extremely rare unobtainable mount for one that pretty much everyone would have in a few expansions time, but that's just hindsight. Getting to 60 back in the day and having enough gold for an epic mount within about 4.5 months though from launch was actually nuts. You had to have been a full-on no-lifer to have one of the no-armor mounts. Blizzard were actually asked whether they would bring these unarmored epic mounts back for Classic too. I can't find the original blue post or interview, it might have been deleted, deleted, but in short they said no, they weren't going to add them back as they didn't want people to feel rushed to get to 60 and to earn loads of gold so that they could buy them before they were removed in accordance with the time period which they existed in the game originally. Season of Discovery put some unarmored mounts back in the game though, so there's that, but beyond Season of Discovery we've still never seen these elusive mounts return to Classic. During your Classic journey you may have noticed a troll towards the southeast entrance to Ungoro Crater named Morvek, who's part of the Ravasor trainers. In fact, this is its own complete reputation, but it serves no purpose in vanilla whatsoever. There's another member of the Ravasor trainers up north too, but she was also removed in TBC. Ravasor trainers were designed to be the cord counterpart to the Alliance Winter Spring trainers. At least that's what I assume, it does appear that way. Winter Spring trainers is of course a long grind to eventually get yourself a unique mount, and it seems the intention for this troll and his faction was the same, but they just never got round to finishing it in vanilla. In Wrath of the Lich King, Blizzard finally got around to updating this quest and allow players to do dailies, which in time would award the Venomhide Ravasor as a mount. It's perhaps a questline that Blizzard could pick back up in a vanilla setting one day. The next one I have for you has a bit of a Burning Crusade crossover, and it's regarding the Moonkin. So Moonkins, at least in vanilla, are known for going in no time and having generally terrible mana management, and for a long time they have needed some way to be better at restoring mana. But what if they were meant to be more of a melee caster hybrid than what we ended up getting? If you think about it, the vast majority of the Moonkin or Owl Beast that you encounter out in the world only use melee attacks. There are a few in Winterspring that use Moonfire, I believe. In TBC, however, Blizzard added this interesting bit of text to Moonkin form, saying attack power is increased by 150% of your level, as well as melee attacks in this form have a chance on hit to regenerate mana based on attack power. Now of course in TBC, Moonkins had other talents created to address their mana issues, but in World of Warcraft oftentimes old ideas are left in the game or not used for a while, so perhaps this was at one point intended to be a fix for balanced druids in vanilla, but it just wasn't implemented until TBC. Now maybe there is some secret melee weaving Boomkin genius out there that I'm not aware of, and the melee Boomkin was used in TBC, but from what I remember this piece of extra text on Moonkin form never really did anything. But if we look at the Boomkin talents in vanilla, we have things such as natural weapons, which increase physical damage by 10%, or clear casting, which could only be procced by meleeing back then. Now to be honest, many vanilla talent trees did want you to get some points off a number of different trees, but it does support the melee Boomkin theory that I've got going here. Then again, druids already had bear and cat form. Do you really want to stand in melee range as a caster as well? Maybe not. Either way, I thought I'd throw the melee weaving Boomkin theory out there. What do you think? Does it make sense, or is it just a coincidence? The tier 2 armor that existed in the game used to look absolutely terrible. In patch 1.9, that's AQ40, Blizzard updated tier 2 armor from Blackwing Lair, Onyxia and Ragnaros, and this may just be one of the best armor updates I've ever seen, giving us iconic sets such as Bloodfang and Judgment. They even revamped tier 2 again as part of World of Warcraft's 20th anniversary. It's truly a tier set to remember. Also, did you know that Molten Core used to drop either tier 1 or tier 2 items? In patch 1.4, the majority of tier 2 items were removed from Molten Core and brought back in World of Warcraft's second major raid tier, Blackwing Lair. I guess they just kept the tier 2 legs and helm dropping from Rag and Onyxia as a bit of an extra reward for taking down a big named boss. You used to be able to stand way back from your raid group inside of an instance and not enter combat. Some people would be assigned just to resurrect others who fell during fights so they could get rebuffed and get back in the fight. Gives a new meaning to battle res, doesn't it? Next up is a hidden location called Newman's Landing. If you swim far around on the coast from Menethil Harbour, you'll eventually arrive here. And if you played a paladin during Season of Discovery and got the Sheath of Light rune, you're gonna remember this because you spent about 15 to 20 minutes to get here. It's speculated to be when new Alliance characters are briefly spawned in before being teleported over to their correct starting zone, hence the name Newman's Landing. Before Taurens had mounts, they had something called plains running. Now you've probably heard of plains running. Essentially, instead of a racial mount, Taurens would just gather speed as they moved, and it would take them 10 seconds to get up to their maximum speed. However, there were definitely some problems with plains running, and I can understand why it was eventually removed. First of all, the 10-second acceleration time compared to a 3-second cast time for a regular mount. Second was, if you got hit by anything, you would stop, which would make this an absolute nightmare to use in, well, the majority of the game, to be honest. And that's why eventually the Kodo mount was added for this race. Also, if you've seen the NPC see Tauren walking up and down Stranglethorn Vale, Samantha Swifttooth, she used to be a trainer for planes running and they just left her in the game. So if you've ever wondered what the point of that NPC is, that's it. There are so many really overpowered items in vanilla which are still in the game, such as the Goblin Rocket Helm, Free Action Potion, Magic Dust and many more, but there was one that was so powerful and broken that it even had to be removed during vanilla World of Warcraft. This was the large rope net which dropped from Defias trappers over in Westfall. It was a farmable item which would root people for 10 seconds when used, and it was removed in patch 1.7 as it was just too good. It's kind of funny that Magic Dust, which is another very powerful consumable, also drops from a mob in Westfall. Whichever developer was working on that zone definitely had some fun with unique drops. Then again, Magic Dust is a lot harder to farm. So I'm sure you've all heard of the warrior trinket Diamond Flask. It's from the Sunken Temple Warrior class quest. There's a very well-known alternative use for it, where essentially warriors can pick up a bunch of healing gear, equip the Diamond Flask trinket, use it, it will snapshot all their healing gear, then change back to their regular gear apart from the Diamond Flask, and the trinket will continue its on-use healing effect as if you still had all that healing gear on. So it's legitimate for warriors to put together a Diamond Flask set so they can benefit from this. But it's not just that I want to tell you about, it's that, well, Diamond Flask shouldn't really work like this in vanilla. In fact, in patch 1.7 there's a little bit of text which says all item-based self-heals will no longer be affected by equipment that provides bonuses to healing. So why does Diamond Flask continue working despite this? Who knows, but I guess warriors keep on winning in vanilla. Alterac Valley used to be way different compared to the version that we got on patch 1.12 in Classic. There used to be mines throughout the entire battleground, way more powerful NPCs on both sides, and mini-bosses such as Korik the Blood Rager that would occupy the Field of Strife. He even had a unique drop table. This is why back in the day battles will last for sometimes days on end because pushing was extremely difficult, whereas today the two factions often pass each other like two ships in the night. The Wildhammer clan reputation exists in Classic in the Hinterland zone, and it's nearly useless. There are a few quests associated with it, but in terms of reputation rewards, there is nothing, apart from the fact that at Honoured you'll get a discount on the flight path in Airy Peak, so that's better than nothing, just about. This next one may be the rarest item in vanilla, which is available to players. If you've ever seen this, you are incredibly lucky. I have never seen it ever playing World of Warcraft for as long as I have. It's a pair of legs which are dropped in Zul'Farrak by trolls called Spell Shock leggings. I've no idea why the drop rate is so stupidly low on these, but they are a very good pair of legs for the level that they're available at. Just know if you ever manage to get these somehow that you get a good amount of gold for them. Speaking of strange items, there's one epic item in vanilla which is perhaps worse than any other epic. It's called the Lion Horn of Stormwind, and you may just have never seen anyone using this. You've probably moused over it on the auction house and thought, wow, that sounds bad. It says when you're struck in combat you have a 1% chance of increasing all party members' armor by 250 for 30 seconds. What it should actually say on the text is just -1 trinket. It's not even that 250 armor isn't much, which to be honest it isn't, it's barely anything. It's more, when would your party ever need this? Are you all expecting to get hit by a physical attack? I guess it's an interesting flavor item, but it's never really found much of a use within the game. And those are all the random vanilla facts that I have for you today. If you want to see more content like this, definitely check out my other useless vanilla information videos, and let me know if there's anything that you'd like to hear about in the future. Thanks again to Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus for sponsoring the video today. Don't forget to check them out either via the QR code on screen or by the links down in the description. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you on the next one very soon.